Chidamber. The Sri Satya Sai Global Council of Trinidad and Tobago lovingly welcomes you to the series Awake, Unite and Inspire. We are extremely grateful, honored, and blessed to have you on our program this evening. So, Brother Sham, share with us, how did you first come into contact with our beloved Mother Sai?
Sairam, Brother Fiz, and Sairam to all of you who are listening. It's my pleasure to be here and an honor to be here. And thank you for this wonderful opportunity to talk about my journey towards Swami. That is something that I think is something that everybody has, a very unique and special journey. So a little bit of storytelling on my side may be just exactly what we need to share the love and glory that is Swami. When did I first see Swami? When did I first come across Swami? I must have been a boy of about few years old, 6, 7, I don't remember when, what age. It's quite young. I was in Mumbai, that's where I grew up, in India. And my father told me to come with him to a friend's house because he had something to give that gentleman or something like that, some small thing, some errand that he had to run. So he said, let's just go by his house and you can come with me and so on. And so I jumped into the car with him and we drove up to this gentleman's house. And it turns out that the gentleman was, another reason I wanted to go with my father was that the gentleman's son was a classmate of mine in the same school, in different section or something like that. But, nice person. I thought I'll just say hello and hang out with him for a little bit, something like that, when my father was talking to his father. So I said, okay, sure, I'll come. And so we went to that person's house and Swami was in that person's house. Apparently they were big Swami devotees and Swami had visited his house. This was in Mumbai and I'd never seen Swami, never heard of him. And Swami came out and, looked at my father and myself and we were just standing there and he kind of blessed us both and, moved on into the car and, Swami went away. And there was obviously several people there and so on. So my father said, it's probably not a great time to go talk to my friend. They're obviously busy with other things. We'll come back later, and we went away. And after that, my contact with Swami was not there at all. I did not see Swami. I did not hear about Swami very much, even though I was in India. And obviously there were some things in the press about Swami and so on, but I never heard or talked or met anybody who was a Swami devotee or anything of that sort. Decades later, I was married and I was married to a wonderful woman who is still alongside with me as my partner. Their parents, her parents, Usha's parents, were running the Satya Sai Center of South Bethesda here in Maryland. And, I did not know about that actually. And so Swami came with a dowry, as it were. They were just started going to bhajans and so on, and they'd taken over the center and things of that nature. So Swami was there in his photographic form at our wedding. They placed a nice picture of Swami there, and there was just a general thing. And my wife and I moved to Boston shortly thereafter, after getting married, and she wanted to go to the center. And initially, my reaction was, okay, if you want to go, I'll just drop you there, and you can do your thing. I'll just hang out, do something else, for the hour, and I can come back and pick you up. And it was interesting. What happened was there was something wrong with the car, our old car. And so I said, well, let me make sure that I'm not driving around somewhere. I'll park the car in this thing and then I'll go inside and wait over there. And so I started going to the center because of a fault in the car and my wife wanting to go. And of course, when we started going back to my in-laws' house, and the bhajans and all of those things were there. So that we used to actually drive 500-600 miles to come to Washington, D.C., to participate in the Akhand bhajans and so on from there. So that was a long, long time ago. We are now set to become grandparents, I think, in a few years or so. So that was when we were very young and newly married. So Swami came with the dowry. So the interesting thing I mentioned about the early thing of meeting Swami as a small young boy, so to speak, was, so many years later, my in-laws moved to Puttaparthi and they were living there. And so we used to go every year, twice a year sometimes, to see Swami, be with them, all of that. One time around, I saw all these boys from the college and the school rushing to darshan and so on. And it struck me what great fortune these kids have. At a very young age, they have come to know Swami, they're in his presence, and they've benefited from all of that and so on. And I was thinking to myself, I had to go all the way to the United States to come to know about Swami. And, so far away and, so many, so difficult to do all of this thing. And I wish I had known Swami when I was young. I had a very serious thought like that. And I was pitying myself, in that sort of way that people do. I wish I'd come to know Swami earlier. That night, I had a vivid recollection of this boyhood experience, which I had completely forgotten. So Swami was telling me that, look, we met a long time ago. Now we're meeting again. And we've known each other for a very, very long time. And so that was sort of the way that Swami entered my life in, two different points in time. And after that, hopefully, I'm now capable of, saying that Swami has been part of my life for a long time. Sarah.
Thank you very much, Brother Shyam. Every devotee has a unique way, a unique experience of how they came into contact with Swami. And you came into contact with Swami through his grace and blessings at such a tender age. So that's a truly rare blessing. So thank you very much for sharing that. So, Brother Shyam, over the years, you've been, as you said, your in-laws lived in Puttaparthi. You've been to Puttaparthi on several occasions. You've attended the South Bethesda Center and been involved, I guess, over the years in the organization and its activities. Can you share at least two of the most memorable experiences you've had with Mother Sai?
There are many. Some are very personal, so maybe I may not go there. But this one is both personal and, kind of easy to share. So I'll share that one. I was on a very rare situation for me professionally. I was on work in India. Usually I'm going to India only on holiday to see Swami or to for family events or something like that. My work has never taken me to India. But this particular one project I was doing needed me to go to India and meet a whole number of companies and various other things along those lines. I was working for a management consulting firm. And so I said, this is fantastic. Let me just take a little bit of time off initially, go see Swami first. And, I usually, when I used to go to Puttaparthi at that time, I used to teach at the university as well. So I can go, I contacted the people. I would say I can come and give some guest lectures. I'll spend 4 or 5 days with Swami, and then I can start my business trip, right? So I did all that. It was wonderful. And on the very last day, literally the last darshan, before I was going to leave to Bangalore and from there to Delhi and all these other places for all these official things, I could see a huge wave of the flu thing hitting me, right? And I'm very prone to getting the flu every season. And I was cursing myself because I said I should have taken the flu shot before I came and so on. And here I am getting this flu. And I was getting sneezy and I was feeling all the usual bad symptoms that you feel when you get the flu. It was coming on really in a huge wave. And we had a close family friend who was living in the ashram at the time. So I actually went to that lady's home and I said, Auntie, can I take some rest here for a while before going to darshan, because I'm just feeling really sick. She made me a cup of tea and made me lie down and so on and all of that. I didn't feel much better after I got up because the cold was getting worse and worse and worse. And so then I went to darshan. So when I was sitting there at darshan, Swami was just walking down, and I was just thinking, Swami, this is really unfair. I was here for 4 or 5 days. I was in the pink of health when I was doing your work in the university and so on. And here I am going to do my work for the office and my company and so on. And I'm getting sick. It's going to be miserable the next 1 week when I'm traveling around all these different places, staying in strange restaurants, eating strange food and all of that sort of thing. This is really unfair, right? And it is the classic kind of thought that you have about these sorts of things. It suddenly comes along. And then I sort of realized that this is a really bad thought. This is not a good thought, because after all, every kind of work is Swami's work. Even the office work is Swami's work and so on. And I can't really think of this as, that I was well when I was in Puttaparthi and I'm not well when I'm going out. I caught the flu here and my trip is going to be miserable because of being here and so on. This is a terrible thought. And I apologized to Swami in my mind. And this is all when Swami was just walking down, the lines and so forth. He was not very far from me. He was just walking and looking in another direction and so on. So I said, Swami, I'm really, really sorry. This is a terrible thought. I apologize for it. I meant it very sort of sincerely, right? Not a very prayerful kind of thing, but it's almost like apologizing to somebody, saying, sorry, I bumped into you. I'm really sorry. So I sort of said, sorry, Swami, I should never have thought those kinds of things. And as soon as I said that, Swami turned around and looked at me piercingly, a fleeting few seconds, right? And looked away. And my cold completely disappeared. And I did not get a flu for the next 3 years. And I actually tested this by, during the winter time, not taking this flu shot, not wearing a jacket and wearing only a thin sweater or something and going out, seeing if this little, flu shot that Swami has given me is working. And for 3 years, no matter what I did, how much I exposed myself to the flu virus, I just did not get the flu. And I was just thinking, this is so remarkable. Amazing sign that Swami understands your thoughts completely. It's an innermost thought. I mean, it is not something I was vocalizing, and the apology, all of that was completely in my mind. He knows those thoughts. So he knows your entire thought process inside your head. There's no hiding from Swami. Any thought you have, he knows. So he knows your thoughts, and he has complete control over your body, in a manner of speaking, because he just looked at me and I got a flu shot. It was incredible. And I'm still amazed when I'm narrating this, how that actually kind of happened, And it cannot be anything that you could say, look, because the feeling was very real. The cold just immediately went away. I was perfectly fine. Like I was a few days ago when I just landed in Puttaparthi. It was amazing. And interestingly enough, to follow the same story, but just to narrate a second incident, which is revelatory. But this is a second-hand experience. Many of you might know Professor Sampath, who was the Vice Chancellor of the university at one point in time. Wonderful person. My father-in-law used to know him, so we would always go and visit him a little bit. He used to live in East Prashanti or one of those places, and we would go and spend a little bit of time with him, and he'll always have some terrific stories to say. He would always like to meet people coming from places of learning, and I was doing my PhD at the time, so he always liked to talk to people like me. I'm sure he'd like to talk to lots of other kinds of people, but a little bit of a special affinity about somebody who's studying engineering and this and that and the other, because he's a scientist, engineer type person himself. So we would go and visit him. And this time around, he narrated this particular story, which was a very similar thing. Apparently, he had just returned from uh, Kodaikanal, right, where Swami goes for the summer thing and so on. And as you know, Kodaikanal can be really cold in the evenings. So Professor Sampath was sharing a room with 2, 3 other people. And, in the middle of the night, it was very cold, but he suddenly remembered that his wife packed for him a little tin of South Indian sort of savory called murukku. It's a like chakli, what they call in Hindi. She packed a small tin with half a dozen of those things in there. And so he suddenly felt he wanted to eat some of that. So he crawled out of the bed very, very quietly. He had kept it in his suitcase under the bed. He pulled out the suitcase, took out the little tin, went underneath the blanket, took out his little torch or flashlight, and lit it up so that he wouldn't disturb the others, to take out those things. And quietly, very, very quietly, so that it won't make much noise, he ate 2 or 3 of those things, put it in the box, put it under his bed, went to sleep afterwards, and in the morning got ready and all of that. And Swami used to, have all of these people, and he was an important individual in the organization. So there was breakfast with Swami, right? And so breakfast was being served. Somebody was putting idlis and this and that and the other. All the students would come and do all of that. And he was sitting next to Swami, Professor Sampath. So as one of those boys was coming to serve one other idli or vada or something like that on his plate, Swami told that boy, don't give him more. He's already eaten in the middle of the night. He's eaten sweet, he's eaten stuff that he brought from home at the middle of the night. So don't give him more. He's already eaten enough. And Professor Sampath was flabbergasted, like everybody is, when suddenly, a flash, you realize Swami knew what was going on in my room, far away from where he was, the middle of the night, under the covers, with this little thing that he had done. Nobody knew it. Only he did. But Swami knew it, right? So here's the best part. And I think this is the wonderful thing about somebody like Professor Sampath. And that's why that previous incident means so much to me. He asked Swami, Swami, it is obvious that you know what happened last night. My question to you is, how do you know this? What is the mechanism? I'm a scientist, I'm an engineer. What is the mechanism? When you see me, do you see this like a computer screen with all the pictures from the past and present and future and so on? Or what is the physical mechanism? What is the mechanism for you knowing this thing? I know that you know. I know this is not the first time this has happened, but I'm curious about what is the mechanics of this. How is it that you know? So Swami said, all of your thinking suggests that I'm somebody outside looking at you. The reason I know everything that happens with you is because you and I are one. I'm inside you. That is why I know. Because whatever you're experiencing, I am experiencing. Whatever you're seeing, I'm seeing. Whatever you're thinking, I'm thinking. Because you and I are one. That is why I know. There's no computer screen. I don't have to look into you to read something. I know it because you're part of me and I'm part of you. I thought that was so fantastic. And, it put my experience in context as well. And so I thought that was a wonderful, wonderful thing. So Sairam again after that story.
Brother Sham, that was absolutely revealing and inspiring. And what a message Swami sent to you, that you and he are one, that he's one with everyone. He exists in everything.
Exactly.
Yes, he is the very core and essence of who we really are. So from that perspective, he knows past, present, and future, because he and us are one. So beautiful, beautiful experience. And what a revelation for him to actually tell you that, to wait The way
Yes,
the whole conversation evolved to that point was very,
exactly. And we've all experienced it in some level. But this extra question that Professor Sampath asked of him and asked directly to Swami, and Swami replying to it, is so revelatory.
yeah, yes, very, very beautiful. So, Brother Sham, what does Sai Baba mean to you today? You have been in his fold for so many years. You've had so many interactions. You've been in the organization for so many years. What does Sai Baba mean to you today?
It's obviously very, very tough to put it in words. I mean, following our previous conversation that Swami and you are one, he himself says this, we don't experience it as a daily, constant kind of a thing. But how we do experience something of it, and we have some sense of what Swami means to us. It's very tough to put into words. I was debating how to phrase this. And I think what Swami represents and means to me, and probably to many of us, he represents the best in us, our best possible self, pure, simple, loving, compassionate, all of those things. He is a symbol of that, your best self. Zaira.
And that's a very interesting answer because he says, I separated myself from myself in order to love myself. And so we are essentially part of him, and that him is divine love. But as you said, when he said, you and I are one, he experiences that and lives it, but we are works in progress towards that realization.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
the ahamkar and the samskars and karmas that we may have to work through or navigate through. So it's a work in progress, but essentially we are one with him. And as he himself has said, there's nothing like attaining liberation. You are already that. So it's just
Exactly.
removing that which prevents the manifestation of that.
Right. Exactly.
So thank you very much for sharing. So, Brother Sham, over the years, how has practicing the teachings of Sri Satya Sai Baba transformed and continue to transform your life?
Again, perhaps an analogy here would probably be useful. We all have this device, phone, getting more and more sophisticated by every new release of the iPhone and Android and so on. So when Swami first comes into our life, I think Swami is like an app that we install, along with 10,000 other apps that are there in the phone. One for weather, one for news, and so on. And the Sai app is there for Sunday budgets and some occasional seva activity and so on. But this app that we install in the phone of our life, as a metaphor, has an ability to become the operating system. So over time, I think if you gradually sort of see what has happened in your own life, this app, the Sai app, it was just one among 3,000 other apps in your life, is now the operating system on which every other app sits. So it's your iOS or Android system. You process your family, you process your job, you process the weather, you process the happenings in your life, you process your relationships, you process your financial situation, you process your business situation through the operating system that is Swami. So he's not an addition to all of that. He's underlying all of that. You use that to process everything else that is happening. So Swami becomes the operating system. He was an app initially, and he becomes an operating system, and you don't even realize it because you take one step, he takes 10 steps, and so on. We all know all of that, and that's how it lands up manifesting itself, I think. So I think what Swami means to me after so many years is that he's the operating system of your life. Just to put it very colloquially and terms that everybody who has a smartphone understands. Everything else sits on top of him, and you operate on all the other things through that operating system, whether it's the money in your bank, the relatives in your family, the jobs, how you process the news, anything works through that operating system. I think that's the simplest way I think I can sort of express that. Saira.
So if I am to express that differently, with the same essential core meaning of what you're saying, is that when we live in consonance with his teachings, when we recognize what his purpose is, when he becomes an integral part of our lives, that awareness that I am God, I am not different from God, you and I are one, it then motivates our thought, word, and deed so that our actions are in line with what pleases him in terms of being guided to practice the human values of truth, right action, peace, love, and nonviolence. That becomes the essential or the essence of our lives and how we interact and practice that in daily life. Is it?
Absolutely. The point I wanted to make over there is that this happens almost as a matter of course. You simply put one foot in front of the other and move on, thinking of Swami as much as you can in your daily life, in your daily activities, and so on. And, you don't know what the future will be. So it's like that story that Swami says, how do you get through this dark and lonely forest, which is full of scares and worries? You have a little lamp, you carry that lamp, and it lights the area around your feet a little bit, and you can take one step forward. Then as you move forward, it lights some more in front of you, and pretty soon you've negotiated the entire forest. And all you had is this little lamp. The lamp doesn't have to light the whole forest. The lamp just has to light the path immediately in front of your legs for you to safely move to the next step. So, and then you negotiate the whole forest. That's what Swami says. And I think that's what I want to sort of add to what you just said, all of which is absolutely true. That you don't have to sit and think, I have to make this happen. It will happen. You just keep doing what you're doing and keep moving along. Start making progress, keep making progress, keep thinking and keep doing, and keep invoking Swami's name in your. You may not be able to do it every time, every hour, every minute, every day, every event in your life. But if you keep doing it, it will become a matter of course. I'm sure many people who practice Namasmarana will probably realize this. And I've experienced this as well, and I'll share a little bit about that, which is, you get impatient, for example, at various sort of things. And then I read somewhere one time that, when you have those sort of things, think of Swami. Just say his name and you'll become less impatient. So at a traffic light, you're just impatient for the traffic light to turn green. You keep saying Sai Ram. And, you're not that impatient. And interestingly enough, I found out after a while that at the traffic light, I was actually sad when the light turned green. You feel, oh, I wanted to say Sai Ram for some more time, that kind of a thing. And then what I sort of have realized is, many hours in the day will go by. You're busy with work and busy with various other things that are happening in your life. You don't have consciously thinking about Swami, and so on. And then just suddenly, you start saying Sai Ram. Just You're not thinking about, oh, I should say Sai Ram now. Promptly, you're doing something, you're waiting for something or whatever it is, a train, a bus, or, at the gas station or something like that. You're waiting for the tank to fill, you're outside with the thing. And suddenly your mind starts saying Sai Ram. And you realize Swami has become part of your thing. It's just happened automatically. You don't even have to think about it. That's the operating system.
Yes, and that is so beautifully put by yourself. And the message I'm also getting is that when you, in your everyday life, whatever you may be involved in, whether it's filling gas or cooking or in the office, you may not consciously remember him, but at the background, there is that awareness of Swami,
Right.
guiding, inspiring your actions, and then you consciously will chant a bhajan or say his name. And in that way, our mundane mechanical work then the work becomes worship because of this infusing of our divine attitude towards what we're doing at that present moment.
A wonderful lady by name Bernice Mead once came to our center a long time ago to talk to the students of the SSC. And she said something. She's a elderly white American woman. And she said something so nicely to the kids, which actually meant a lot to everybody else as well. And she said, Swami is a gentleman. Unless you welcome him into the house, he is not going to come in, So once you say, Swami, please come into my home, he will come in. And then he feels so free that, like a good friend, he'll just walk in. He's now comfortable because, but initially you have to make the attempt to make sure that you welcome him into your home. And when you do that, after you've done that a few times, he feels free enough to just walk in, and he'll come in and say, hey, how's everything going? This sort of thing, like a friend would come in small towns and places we have all grown up in. A friend will just come in, did not have to ring the bell and wait for you to open the door. They'll just open the door and walk in, and say, hi, I'm here. That's kind of what Swami does. So you have to treat him initially with the idea that I should make sure that he feels welcome, and I should call him in. So that's an initial sort of thing. For some years, you have to do that. But as time goes on, Swami is now, feels free to come in, and he will come into your thoughts. When you're just pumping gas, he'll start saying, hey, you need to think about me. And you start saying Sai Ram, So it's not a conscious thing. That's the point I'm trying to make, which is it becomes just instinctive. And that's an important thing to know. And feel good about it at some level, because you don't have to keep struggling. And that's, I think, a really terrific underlying meaning of the words, why fear when I'm here? We usually initially think of it as some calamity will not befall us because Swami is here, and so on. And those things do happen, and we see that progressing as time goes on. But what Swami is also meaning with that is, don't fear for your own progress. I'm here. I'm here for your progress. I remember Bob Bazzani once was in the interview room with Swami and so on. And Swami had asked a number of students and so on to recite something from the Vedas and things of that sort. And they did all that. And Bazzani, like a very nice American man, who felt that, look, I don't know any of this stuff. And so after those boys left, he told Swami in conversation, Swami, I feel so bad that I was born in America and all of those kind of things, and I don't know the Gita, and I don't know Sanskrit, and so on, all of that. Swami told him, don't think like that. I will write a Gita in your heart. You don't need to do all that. I'm here. I will write a Gita in your heart. He said, stop right there. Don't think like that. And he said that. I think that's so meaningful, because many of us probably who live out far away from where you were born and all of those sorts of things, we probably have all that sentimentality about this and so on. Another great conversation was with, it was not Professor Sampath, it was another professor at the university. I'm suddenly forgetting his name. He was also the vice chancellor. I was saying, all of you guys are very fortunate because you're right here with Swami all the time and so on. So he said, again, it was very interesting. He said, no, if you look at the Ramayana, only Lakshmana of all the brothers was with Rama all the time. But in some ways, Bharata is an even better devotee of Rama, because even though he was far away from Rama, he was thinking about Rama all the time, and he was acting on his behalf and was doing his work. So if you live far away from the country that you were born in and you feel bad about that, and you feel bad about living far away from where Swami is and all of that, he said, you don't have to think like that. You shouldn't think like that. You've been planted there because you're a Bharata, you're not a Lakshmana, but you're equally dear to Rama. And again, that's a very nice lesson, that we should be happy with where we are, what we're doing, and all of that, because you're Swami's representative there. You're doing his work there, wherever you are.
Very, very inspiring, Brother Shyam. Really, really wonderful examples and life lessons learned from what you've just shared. And I remember Swami saying, I don't want you to be near to me, I want you to be dear to me.
Right.
So it's a very powerful message for all of us. And as you said, our karmas have placed us where we are, and we need to work with what we have where we are. And time and space, there's no difference in when it comes to God, because He's omniscient, He's omnipresent, He's omnipotent. And most importantly, as you said, why fear when I am here? And Swami saying, you and I are one. So you carry Him wherever you go. And that is how each and every one of us, we have this unique and valuable opportunity in this life to continue to do His work.
Yes.
Be contented and be happy where He has placed you, and do the best that you can to please Him.
That's right. Exactly right.
Yeah. So, Brother Shyam, a question that I did not really send to you, but spontaneously I'm going to ask now. Swami has performed numerous miracles, thousands of miracles for devotees across the globe. He's been able to multiply food, convert water into petrol, raise the dead back to life. He can speak any language. He knows the past, present, and future of every single thing and one in the universe. He's been able to materialize a straight rainbow for a doubting American devotee. No one has ever yet seen him sleeping really in his 85-year lifespan. But what do you believe is his greatest miracle?
That's a finite question about an infinite situation. So it's obviously not going to be even remotely adequate to describe that. But let's personalize it. Like you said, there are all of these things, right? I think the most remarkable thing miracle, if you want to call it that, is that he is drawn you to him, and you have been drawn to him for whatever reason. You have no idea why. We all know this. I mean, some members of the family really take to Swami, the same people who grew up in the same household and all of those things, similar life situation, they don't. Somebody else does. Somebody takes to Swami instantly. Somebody takes to Swami slowly over time. But those of us who have had the benefit of knowing Swami and including him as part of our lives and trying to follow his teachings and so on, the biggest miracle is that you are there with him and trying to follow it. And out of the, I looked up these numbers, by the way, not for this question, as you say, this question came out of the blue, on another thing. The number of human beings who have lived on this planet Earth since the time that human beings appeared on this planet. Scientists have made a calculation about this. Apparently, it's about 110 or 120 billion people have lived on this planet, right? And the Earth is still pretty young. It'll last for a long time. There'll be many hundreds of billions of people who are yet to be born, who will be born. There are people being born every day. Today, the population of the world is 8 billion. Of all these billions of human beings who have already been born and lived their life on the earth, and others who will be born many times more, perhaps, you are among this small fraction of people who have coincided with Swami and come to know him and include him in your life. If that is not a statistical miracle, I don't know what is, right? Because the percentage of people who in this vast number out there, at present, 110 billion people, you belong to this small fraction of a few million people who know who Swami is. That's a very tiny fraction. It's like winning the lottery every day. That's the miracle, I think. It's one small cut at this infinite answer, I suppose, but that's what I can come up with on a moment's notice.
Thank you very much. And that was really a beautiful response, that he draws you to him. And as you said, out of 8 billion people, look at the fraction. And if you put that over the 110 that you spoke about, that out of these, he himself has drawn this selected few people in relation to the whole to himself. And if we should extend that point even a little further, when he draws you to him, as he himself has said, he said, I hook you and then I begin to cook you. And then I've added on one more. He begins to barbecue you. So there is a period of, when you listen to devotees, some of them have said that when they go to the ashram of Sai Baba, they were expecting everything to be loving and people to be kind and peaceful and compassionate. And sometimes the opposite happens. People were talking
Yes.
to them in a gruff manner, the Sivadals
Yes.
were shouting, and they were having opposite experiences of what divine love truly is.
Right.
And so Swami says this is like a training ground to prepare you for living in the world without the world living in you. And this is how the transformation begins to happen from
Right.
cooking. Because at the end of the day, we've brought some scars, we have karmas, we have faults, and
Right.
we all need to work on these to become closer and closer to that divinity within. So, as
Right.
you said, when he draws you to him, then the transformation process begins,
Yes.
because we are like that hard rock. But to become the diamond, we have to be smelted and pounded and twisted and put in the oven of heat, etc.
Right.
So thousands of us devotees, we go through these challenges as and um, opportunities now to become closer and closer to Him. So that
I'll
would
tell
be.
you a small thing on this evolution part and how, like you said, the transformation happens. And to the same thing and the same interaction with Swami and the same thing that one sees in Swami, right? One of the devotees in our center, a Western gentleman, uh, he said he saw something when he went to Puttaparthi. Swami was coming up the steps and he tripped a little bit. It didn't fall, he just tripped and held his balance, you know, and walked up. He said that really bothered him. And he never went back to Puttaparthi for many years because he said, I wanted to see Swami as a superhuman person, but he's tripping over the steps. It just somehow bothered me. I could not somehow come to terms with that. And it was not sort of what, and he said, I have not gone to Puttaparthi afterwards. He used to still come to the center and so on. But, he was one of those, what you might call part-time devotees. Now, interestingly enough, a few years later, or whenever that was, Dr. Hislop, the famous person who's written all those wonderful books and so forth about Swami, he said about a similar thing. He said he saw Swami walk up the steps and he almost tripped. Same exact incident, right? And what Dr. Hislop was saying was, isn't that wonderful? Swami is like human, like us. He even trips on steps, you know. He's like you and me, so we can be like him, the same picture of watching Swami just possibly trip a little bit on the step and lose his balance and footing or something, as the shiny, marble steps were. It's obviously difficult for anyone to navigate that. One person sees it, and sort of has a huge impact on them in an almost, I would say, turning you back kind of way. But another person who has moved along and accepted Swami and all of those things, the same person processes the same picture, the same information very differently. That's the power of the transformation, because Swami is now so integral to the way you are. The Sai operating system is at work, to use my previous analogy, that now you look at that and said, that's wonderful. Swami is just like us. And it feels really nice to be able to say that. And we are like him, and so we can be like him, and we can see all of those things that he does, and we can try to do the same things and so on. And it's just a completely different perspective. These are two very smart, intelligent people. And, it just shows the evolution that happens when you've been with Swami for a long time and when you've started imbibing his teachings. I'm not saying that time is the most important criterion here, but it's how one changes when Swami is a much more integral part of your life than otherwise.
Yes, very, very, very interesting perception of the two devotees. Very, very interesting indeed. And what an important point you made, because Swami came in a physical form so that he could build that kinship and relationship with us as humans. So here was the omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent consciousness embodying itself, but yet maintaining his omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence to build that relationship, to show us and help us to also feel that kinship with him.
Yes.
He can teach us how to move from where we are, from the animalistic stage to the stage of divinity.
Exactly.
Yes, and then for us to build the relationship with God on a physical level, when you're able to have that darshan, sparshan, and sambashan with him, But then he also warns us, don't ever think that I am this physical body, which is a powerful lesson for all of us.
Yes.
That you're not the body, you're not the mind, you're not the intellect, you are pure Atma, pure consciousness. You're all potential avatars. So, very beautiful lesson, Brother Sham. And again, I want to pull out another question spontaneously to
Okay. You
know,
ask tough questions and you're asking spontaneous questions, but I'll try my best.
but I know that in these interviews, as in our lives, Swami is the divine orchestrator. You know, one of his popular sayings and one that devotees use regularly is love all, serve all, help ever, hurt never. But I want to go to the second quote. What do you understand and how have you been able to practice the help ever, hurt never teaching?
You know, you have to take that, it's only 4 words. Out of which one is help, one is hurt. The tough part of the first part of it is ever. And the tough part about the second part is never. Right? We all help. But help ever? Always help? That's what that demands. Right? We are not in the business of hurting people all the time. Nobody is. Even the worst criminal in the world loves his mother and so on. He's not hurting people all the time. So we're not, human beings are decent people for the most part, right? But hurt never? We should never hurt anybody? That's the tough part. It's the ever and the never which is tough. We always help, not always help, but we help and we, don't hurt generally. But the tough thing is that the ever and the never. And that's where the challenge lies, I think, in helping everyone. And, if you sort of look at it, and it is easy to feel empathy for someone who is less fortunate than you, right? Because they are really suffering and so on. You have to actually question yourself a little bit. Because they seem to have less than you in life. You can almost pity them, right? It's kind of tough to feel that about someone who has more than you, right? So that's the interesting thing, which is if there's somebody who is rich and powerful and good looking and so on, they also have problems. They also have issues. There is nobody in the world who doesn't have a bucket of problems that they're dealing with. But to feel that you should somehow be a good person to them too, because they might be hurting as well in whatever way they are. This is like feeling hurt for Hillary Clinton when she lost the election, right? And I learned this from my wife in a manner of speaking. Usha was feeling, she said, how bad she must be feeling, and you have to kind of question yourself. She's a wealthy lady. She is a very accomplished person. She's had many firsts in her life. She has been the first lady. She's been Secretary of State. She's been senator. But how much my wife was feeling so bad about how Hillary Clinton must be feeling about losing the election and then having to sit in the thing there when Trump was being inaugurated. What it must take to do that. And she was really sort of feeling, wow, clearly we are nowhere in the realm of accomplishment and so on as Hillary Clinton. But to feel that empathy for her in that moment, that's help ever, to feel that kind of thing for someone whose pain is very different than yours, perhaps. we can always say, well, this person is starving, doesn't have a place to live, and so on. You can kind of, help that person. But to help someone you're equal, help someone who is even better off, quote unquote, again in rabbit ears, that's tough. And it's the same thing with the hurt never part, right? With your loved ones, with your children, with your grandchildren, with your spouse, with some close friends, you're not going to hurt them. You'll do everything you can to save them. But a complete stranger, that's tough. So I think that is where the challenge for us lies. And it's to expand the scope of that, to focus on that ever part and the never part. And, that's the tough part, I think. And so I think if you sort of observe yourself and seeing how you're living that message or trying to live that message, it's about, am I doing that all the time with everybody? And am I, even if I don't know someone, am I sort of taking care of that? And I suddenly, for some odd reason, this story comes to mind. The Second World War time, there was a band of French soldiers who were, the Germans were all retreating and so on and so forth, whatever it was, or maybe it was a British soldier, somebody from the Allied side. But it was somewhere in the occupied areas in Europe from where the Germans were in retreat. And they were in shambles, everything was going away and all of that. And these band of Allied soldiers came across a German soldier who was wounded and so forth. And now it's a real tough thing to now make a stretcher and so on and take this wounded German soldier to take him to some hospital, and it'll be a burden and so on. So this Allied soldiers wanted to just shoot him, right? One of those soldiers said, no, we can't shoot him. He's a prisoner of war at best, and he's wounded. We should take him back. And they said, this is going to be so problematic. We can't do this. We'll just shoot him. He said, no. If you're going to shoot him, you're going to have to shoot me. Right? And so that's what happened. They pulled up this Allied soldier along with this German soldier. He held the German soldier, and both of them got shot. He didn't know this fellow at all. Right? And today, there's a small place of a memorial over there. I forget which country and what it is, where people go to just pay homage to this chap and this idea of just a young fellow protecting another chap with his own life, especially one from the opposite side. So that's possible. These are regular human beings like you and me. So it is possible to hurt never. And so that's sort of where I think our challenge lies, to keep expanding that idea of ever and never.
Thank you very much, Brother Shyam. That was a really, really wonderful example of it. Of somebody who, one, he didn't know, two, may have been considered his enemy, and yet he gave up his life. And
he's a young fellow, right? He couldn't have been more than 23 years old. Most of the people who went to fight the Second World War were in their teens or early 20s. And this is a young man who had life in front of him. The war was coming to an end. He would have gone back and lived a happy life. He probably had a wonderful wife to come home to, or a loved one, and so on. He could have lived a very happy life for the rest of his life. But, he didn't do it. Remarkable.
Really, really amazing, amazing example of practicing human values and embodying that particular statement of help ever, hurt never. And I when you were speaking, what came to me as well is that sometimes inadvertently, unintentionally, we may hurt others by just being good. You know, in the workplace, you may get a job and you want to do everything right according to Swami's teachings. And it may show up persons who are not doing what they're supposed to do.
Right.
They feel hurt, you know. So sometimes unintentionally, we may cause hurt. But I think what Swami really means is that, as you said, we must, whenever an opportunity presents itself, we must always strive to help as much as we can and hurt less,
As little as we can.
as little as we can. So once
Indeed.
we make that conscious effort, that is important.
And again, you know, if you trust that Swami is with you, that expansion will happen.
Yes, definitely.
Over time.
Because I remember he says, give me your availability and I will give you the ability. If
You're full of wonderful quotes like this.
if your intention and there's the willingness, Baba says, if there's the willingness to do his work, he will provide the opportunities. So really and truly, it's all about us.
Right.
Once we become available, once we become willing, we want to be willing instruments, Swami is going to create the opportunities for us to do the seva or practice his teachings.
Yes.
So, Brother Shyam, it has been an absolute joy, a pleasure, and a privilege having this wonderful divine interview with you. And I am always amazed in such a beautiful and inspiring way that when these interviews take place, it never happens the way I plan it. It always takes on its own energy.
Right.
Feels through it. It is Swami orchestrating what he wants to be shared and what he wants to be said by the interviewer and the interviewee. And this is
Indeed.
a beautiful example of that.
Indeed. Indeed. I think you're absolutely right about that.
Wonderful. So the Sri Satya Sai Global Council of Trinidad and Tobago wishes to express gratitude and appreciation to you, Brother Shyam Chidamber, for taking the time, your energy, for sharing your personal journey, your transformation, and your perspective on the teachings of our beloved Mother Sai. May Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba continue to bless you and the family. May you continue to be a loving instrument as his mission unfolds. Jai.
Thank you so very, very, very much. And it's been my honor and privilege to be here and talk to you. It was wonderful to be here. And thank you for the invitation. Sai Ram.